Welcome to the Festival of Entrepreneurs, recorded live at the NEC in Birmingham. Over the next few minutes, you'll hear from some of the most incredible founders, investors, and business leaders who joined us this year.
He's one of my favourite human beings in the world. Does anyone know who Pete is? Okay, one person.
Do you want to know how I know him? Do you want to just, because this is a crazy story. We'll start off with a crazy story.
Why not? Might as well.
This guy here is called Scott Parks. I met Scott on a TV program 20 years ago. It was called Fat Chance.
Is this Louis' dad?
Yes, this is Louis' dad. So this is a crazy story, right? And you couldn't call a TV program Fat Chance anymore, but this was 20 years ago. It was actually, the voice of it was a guy who's in prison for, that's another story. ITV. It was 8 families, one family competing against another family to see which family would lose the most weight over a 3-month period. He wasn't born, that's his dad, and he was one of the families. Your family actually lost. They lost, and we stayed friends because I did a lot of stuff on TV. Whenever I work with anyone on TV, I kind of take it as a great thing that they would believe in you and you would work with them. We stayed in contact. He contacted me probably 16 years later and said to me, can you help my son, who I met when you were probably about 2? He's studying and can he interview? He's studying, what will be studying? Filmmaking, something. So he came to my house with his dad. We sat down and he's interviewing me. And in my head, I'm thinking, oh, I'm looking for someone who could work with me, filming all the things I do. And we worked together for 3 years. Unbelievable human being. This guy has gone on to do incredible things. He's worked with you. He's worked with Alex Chisnell. Who else have you filmed and done podcasts with? Give us some of the names.
Everyone.
Eddie Hearn.
Trey, who was here early.
Trey. You name it, he's done it.
Ted Baker.
He's available for bar mitzvahs, funerals, weddings. Scott Parks. I thought Scott Parks. Louis Parks, ladies and gentlemen. And his dad, Scott Parks. Come on. Wow. And we've also done a couple of podcasts with 7 times Snooker world champion Ronnie who I worked with for 2 years of my life from 2002 until 2004. There's a penny drop. Please come and bring me the only prop. I met this lady today and I said, where'd you get that from? And she said, Amazon. And I said, can I borrow this? Because it might be a good thing to demonstrate a little bit of what we're going to talk about. So, back to James.
I suggest yours like a spinning top. I'll just wind you up and let you go. We're going to talk about the parallels between peak performance in sport and business because for those who don't know, he's done a very thorough introduction of one man who just wanted to sneak in the back and just stay quiet. And Louis, who hates being the centre of attention, loves being behind the camera. But Pete is one of the leading mindset strategists in the country. He was, do you remember the Arsenal team about 20 years ago who never lost a game in the entire season, the Invincibles? Pete was part of their peak performance team behind the scenes, and that's why, I'm not saying that's why they didn't lose a game, but, you know, might as well have that claim to fame. Why not? Worked alongside Ronnie O'Sullivan, has worked with some of the biggest names in sport in order to get their mindset right, to get their performance to a place where it needs to be. So we're going to talk about the parallels between that mindset of peak performance in sport, or whatever it may be, and business. Handsome Marvin over there, are you going to come and see? Oh, come on. This is the most... Yeah, okay, fine. Before we go into this, right, what is mindset? When you hear the word mindset, it's so like overused now. What does mindset mean to you?
Okay, so when it comes to the mind, we don't actually know where the mind is. So if I said to all of you, point to your mind,
it's in your hand.
Where would you point? Yeah, we don't really know where it is, but we do. Sometimes when you ask people to point their mind, some people go here, some people will go somewhere else. But the mind, you don't actually know where it is. That was a joke, by the way. You have to be careful what you say these days. But if I was to ask you, what is the nature of the human mind? Here's a question I'm asking all of you. What is the nature of the human mind? Or let's go even more personal, if that's all right with you. What's your mind like? This is a big question to ask anybody because it means you have to start thinking and thinking about what is the experience like of being me? Now, you don't want to be me because it's a bit of a crazy place being me. I've spent most of my life being busy. I was born 6 weeks premature. I was in a hurry to come out, and I've been in a hurry ever since. Chasing recognition and chasing moving away from rejection. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
That's how I've lived most of my life. My mind's been a bit messy. What's your mind like? So it's the management system, right? Okay, so who runs your mind? I mean, this is a big question, right?
Wow.
Who runs your mind? Who's running your mind? How many people want to run your mind? Your spirit? Yeah? Who's running your mind? Who wants to take control of your mind? Lots of people. I want to influence your mind. I don't want to take control of your mind. But what's really interesting in Buddhism, there's a word called Dukkha. Has anyone ever heard of this word? Dukkha, right? If you don't know what it is, I would Google it. It's fascinating. Dukkha really means suffering. So Buddhists believe that life is about suffering. And how many of you are entrepreneurs in here? Entrepreneurial? Can we just take a slight tangent and let me ask you a question? What does that word actually mean? Entrepreneur. I'm giving him a bit of a break because he's been working hard today. I like taking center stage. Who knows what that word means? Entrepreneur. Anyone know? I'll tell you, it comes from a French word. Basically, it means someone who's going to take a risk in the pursuit of profit. Okay? That's what the French word entrepreneur means. But you know what? It has a much deeper meaning. It comes from a Sanskrit word. And it means you have a burning desire to do something, and that burning desire, it won't go away. I don't know about you. You know who I learned that from? Beijing. On Clubhouse. So many of us here, we met on the social media app during lockdown, and we've remained friends ever since. So Beijing Falastin was the person who told me that that's what the word means. So I'm going to ask you, what do you have a burning desire to do, that you would do it even if you weren't being paid to do it, because it's something you really got to do? Can everyone relate to this? There's something you've got to do. If we look at it from a Buddhist point of view, and we look at what the mind is, the mind will create suffering. In Maya is Dukkha is in it's Buddhism. Maya is in Hinduism, and it means something quite similar. That the mind creates suffering. The mind creates problems. Would you not agree that your mind creates problems? Yes. I mean, it's just one of the things that mind does. So why am I telling you this? I would say if you want to be successful in what you do, it's a good idea to choose something that you're passionate about and then understand that you're going to suffer. Because if you don't suffer, what's the point? There's a wonderful book I've been reading recently. It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And it's sold millions of copies, and that was the big thing I took out of the book, where he talks about choose your suffering. Now, I choose to suffer myself in the spirit of wanting to help people, but what I've learned is I've really got to help myself, because for so much of my life, I think I've been a bit of a fraud. I think I've put on a mask that I've tried to show the world, and I haven't really shown the world who I am. I've shown the world who I thought I should be. My mind has been a bit of a mess. I don't know what your mind is like, but what I see, this is what I see, is everyone is suffering. Pretty much everyone I meet is suffering. You look at them. I was coming on the train today, I was thinking, I wonder what the experience like of being alive is like for that person right now. But no one really talks about it, right? You can put a selfie and show a version of yourself to the world, but most people are really, really struggling. And let me ask you, who gives a shit? Who does? You do, right? You care, don't you? Yes? You care. But to really work on your own mind, I think that's a journey that is for the rest of your life. Would you not agree? To learn, so how do you control your mind? Can you ever control your mind? This is just my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right, by the way. But would you agree that your mind plays tricks on you? I don't know about you. I woke up at 1:30 this morning, knowing that I wanted to be here for the start of his presentation. But before you knew it, have you had this experience before where you start thinking, and then all of a sudden, your thinking has woken your body up? It's fascinating that you could think like, oh, did I leave the gas on? And you think about all the things that you've got to do. I'm dyslexic, I'm probably ADHD as well. that I have to be very careful what I think, because what I think creates chemicals called emotions, and then emotions are felt in the body, right? Have you ever had a really good feeling? Have you ever felt excited? Have you ever felt happy? Have you ever felt sad? Have you ever felt lonely? Have you ever felt depressed? Have you ever felt anxious? You know, there's a new term in the medical literature, it's called anxiogenic. So obesogenic was a word that was popular in the 90s. I used to be a personal trainer many years ago. People would join a gym because they want to lose weight. Back then it's different now. Most people join gyms because they want to feel different. They want to feel better. Anxiogenic. We have a world that is producing anxious people. You do know this, right? So most people are feeling anxious for lots of reasons. One is the amount of information that they're taking in. But unless we learn to think greater than we feel, we'll always be a victim of what we think that produces feelings that sometimes it's hard to change the way you feel, isn't it? So this is a long answer to this question. I think it's absolutely essential to learn how to observe what your mind is doing. You know, it's a very easy thing to say, to observe what your mind is doing. So I had a coach for 16 years. He was from the Philippines. He was 8 of 16 brothers and sisters. I worked with him for 16 years of my life. He saved my wife's life, which is another story in itself. But I asked him, he said to me actually, he said, what's the nature of the human mind? I don't remember what I said, but he kind of laughed and he said, the nature of the human mind is your mind plays tricks on you. Have you ever tried to go to sleep at night? And your mind just is, you're thinking, and then you're thinking and you're feeling. Have you ever been walking down the street and you think that someone's behind you and there's nobody there? That's what the mind is doing. And unless we learn to observe the mind, then we have to be careful, because the mind will then just do what it's always done. And unfortunately, we're not wired up to thrive. We're not wired up to be happy. We're not wired up. I believe we can be happy. We can be peaceful. But we're wired up to survive. We're all wired up to survive. And we're living in a world that is preying on our survival instincts. And that's why so many people are living in a state of mild anxiety. So how do you start to conquer your mind, or maybe not conquer your mind? How many of you would agree that observing what your mind is doing is really important? To be able to just stop and observe the stream of consciousness, the thoughts that are just coming and coming and coming and coming. Because he said to me, how do you conquer your mind? And I said something, I don't know what. He then said, you have to learn to observe your mind. And then the next thing he said was really fascinating. He said, unless you can find humor in what you're thinking, you're going to be a victim of what you're thinking. So to be able to see the funny side of what you're thinking, or see the lighter side of what you're thinking, because the way I look at it, James, is we are all more than what we think. Are we not? All of us in this room, we amount to more than what we think. So here's a big question to all of you. What will be the greatest thing you ever do? I don't know, because I'm not you. The greatest thing I will ever do is find more peace in myself. That's the greatest thing I'm ever going to do. And you know what? I feel like I've only just got started. Just to find peace in being in this moment, without thinking about the past, without thinking about the future, that to me will be the greatest thing I ever do. And as a person who was working with athletes, that's ultimately what you're trying to help an athlete do, to find peace in where they are. That's what we call the zone in sport. That's what we call the flow in sport, is being where you are. Isn't that the greatest thing we'll ever do, just to be where we are? Isn't it? But I think so much of that is about stepping back and asking questions, being a bit more curious. As Socrates said, the more I know, the more I realize I don't know anything. the more I start to see the funny side of what I'm thinking, and I disconnect from a lot of the noise. I heard someone saying today, how do you stand out with all of this noise? Well, we could all stand out right now if we wanted to. We could take all of our clothes off and just start running around here. We will create memories that people will never forget. This guy at the back there, he would never forget us if that's what we chose to do.
Come on, Pete, let's do it.
Let's do it. Now, of course, I don't want to do
You actually would.
Well,
No,
there was a time I might have done that, but I wouldn't do that now. So I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Can't remember the question was.
You asked about the mind.
The mind did. Here's an interesting one, and this is one that's very relevant to you by now. When we talk about sort of optimal performance and peak performance, whether it be athletes and then sort of moving it into the world and the mindset of taking that mentality towards business, what do you think is the difference between pushing and pushing too far? Because we've seen people today, and I don't know if anyone is here for the Ray Kelvin conversation, there was a guy who sat at the front.
Yeah, that's what
And it's very questionable whether he should or should not carry that on. Based on his physiology and his mentality and how his energy, I question whether that guy should continue on the path that he's on. So how do you, and that's just a personal preference, fingers crossed he takes that business to the moon, but what's the difference between pushing and pushing too far?
I mean, everybody's different, right? I think it's more about the nervous system. And if you're pushing with your sympathetic nervous system being way too activated, so you're in a state of stress or mild anxiety, I think that's just dangerous. So I think if you're pushing and you're pushing from a place of where there's some kind of parasympathetic activity, there's some sort of calmness around what you're doing, I think that can be maintained over a long period of time. So I think people have to find their own way, but who here underdoes things? Anyone here underdo things? Or who here is an overdoer? Yeah, I will overdo it. I used to overdo everything. I mean, look, we were talking about this. He asked me on the phone the other day, how are you? And I said, look, I can tell you on the phone, but I'd much rather sit down and tell you what's going on. I have written 21 books, some of them best-selling books around the world, and I've spoken all over the world. I was on TV for many years. I've worked with lots and lots of people. But so what? Because I did it so much out of seeking validation, seeking recognition, and avoiding rejection. So I didn't really enjoy any of it. I had chronic fatigue for 10 years as well, because I wasn't really present. And this is partly why I'm still in a phase of finding my feet again. Plus, my wife died 2 years ago after having been given 18 months to live in 2011. It's been a bit of a reset, because life is pretty damn difficult, right? Isn't it? It's not the way that perhaps we all think it's going to be, but it's a lot easier when you can find peace in what you're doing. So I think ultimately you have to find what's the right energy for you to be fueled by. And I'm on a huge learning curve myself, which I don't mind publicly saying, because I think it's honest. It's vulnerability and honesty is really important. So if I was asking you, how do you feel about where you are right now? What sort of words would you use to describe where you are? Excited? Sad? Not sure? I mean, maybe it's a combination of a few different things. Anyone want to tell me how do you feel about where you are right now? You're in a good place. Wow. Okay, so did you hear that? What he said is, he's in a good place now, but you've been in some real difficult places. And I would imagine that going through those difficult places have made you who you are today. Yes, and this is why I think we have to choose where we want to suffer. Because if anything worth doing is worth doing, it's going to be difficult. Otherwise, what's the point?
What about then? There's a whole tangent. I'm not going to go down that route. I really want to, but we're going to
You can do whatever you want.
No, I'll drive you out in the car and I'll ask you in the car later. The question was about pushing too far. You worked with Ronnie O'Sullivan for years.
2 years.
And I would imagine for 2 years.
Yeah.
Let's just specify.
Yeah.
But you have probably watched someone at very close quarters who is the best in the world at what they do. You know, lots of people in this room, we aspire to be good entrepreneurs, great entrepreneurs, but he is the best in the world in the thing that he does. He pushed to become the best in the world at what he did.
Oh.
And then he
But do you know
started playing left-handed and maybe pushed it too far. Did you see a betterment of Ronnie when he found that inner peace and stopped pushing too far?
Does everyone know who Ronnie O'Sullivan is?
Give some context just in case.
What's interesting about Ronnie, okay, so a bit of a backstory. He was not in a very good way. A friend of his called TalkSport and asked, do you know anyone who can help Ronnie?
Is that how it came about?
Yeah, so thankfully someone at TalkSport mentioned my name, and I met Ronnie. What's that really nice hotel in Mayfair on the corner? Is it Mayfair? Or?
Mayfair Hotel?
No.
Oh, Latin?
No. Anyway, he couldn't get in because he was wearing jeans. So we went across the road. We talked. He made an appointment to come and see me. A 2-hour appointment. He stayed at my house for 3 days, and I just listened to him. I listened to him speak. Basically, to cut a long story short, Ronnie's dad committed murder when Ronnie was 14. If that sort of thing happens to someone, you can imagine that it's going to have a pretty traumatic effect on someone. Yeah? You can imagine that, right? In fact, it's quite normal that if you're that sort of age and something like that happens, you start to reason, could I have done something different that my dad wouldn't have done that? Ronnie was playing in a UK championship in York, and we hired a house, and he was in the bath and he started screaming, and I thought, shit, what's he done? I banged on the door, are you okay? He said yes. I then asked him later, what was that about? He goes, I just realised that I've been playing all these years for my dad, and every time I lose, I feel like I've let him down. And I was like, whoa. Can you imagine what that must be like if that's what's driving you to succeed?
And who is Ronnie O'Sullivan for anyone who doesn't know?
Well, he's 7-time Snooker world champion. There was an amazing documentary about him on Amazon Prime.
That was great.
He eventually stopped listening to me because we became such good friends. And then he started working with Dr. Steve Peters, who really helped Ronnie as well. But we're only as good, I believe, as the people around us, right? We're only as good as the people around us who support us. How can I help you? What do you need? How can we move through things? So that wasn't a good energy for Ronnie to be fueled by, but it did allow him to get to a point of winning multiple world titles. But I suppose the question I'd ask all of you is, what's driving you in where you are in your business right now? I mean, I don't even know what your businesses are, but what is driving you? Is it fear? Is it worry? Is it doubt? Is it love? Is it... Anyway, carry on.
So the difference in him, like he pushed and became a world champion, but was a very dissatisfied person from the outside looking in. Didn't seem like a happy person, would go into tournaments, would play left-handed to make it more difficult for himself, would like to create challenges, but then seems like he's found love and stillness and peace and running.
Yeah, he's definitely found Sorry, go on.
And do you think, could you see how do you encourage someone to push but not push too far when they're trying to be the best at what they can do, whether it be in a business or an athlete context? Or do you have to push as far as you can go, and then you have to have that trauma, tragedy, mini breakdown, and then come back to a place of peace?
I think if you want to be successful, faith is a real key element. Having faith, I think that there's something outside of you that is supporting you. Because if you don't have faith, then it's a lonely place trying to be successful on your own. And I think when you have faith and you maybe have awareness of how things work in the universe or on this earth, nature has a way of just And this is, for me, I have 2 tattoos, and this is one of them. This to me is the most powerful word in the world, intentions. Because everything has an intention, does it not? Everything has a reason for it to be. I was in the sea in Greece not long ago, and I was the only person in the sea, and the sun was coming up, and I was thinking, what's the intention of the sun? What does the sun do? Well, it gives life to Earth. That's its intention. I might be wrong, but that's just my opinion. Everything lives to express itself. Everything. Every cell lives to express itself fully. Every acorn that falls from the tree, it has the potential to be an oak tree. But it might not, because nature can be quite cruel sometimes, right? Can't it? So I believe that when you're intentional, you know there's going to be something that goes up against the thing that's going to grow. So when you leave here today and you look at anything outside in nature that's growing, you'll see that there's some force that's acting in opposition to that growth. It could be the heat, it could be the rain, it could be the water, it could be the wind. There's something that's going to challenge that growth, right? You could call it the yin, you could call it the yang. In our growth, there's something that's going to challenge that growth. And I think the biggest challenge isn't the external environment. For most of us, we're fortunate enough that we have environments that we're lucky, right? We're not living under some regime we're not at the moment anyways.
Well, you say that.
Well, who knows what's going to happen, but our inner regime, the fact that we can be at war with ourselves to find peace in our own experience is a real challenge. But to understand there's always going to be opposition. And I think the biggest opposition in most cases is ourselves. I don't know, does that answer your question?
I don't even care about the question. I just like hearing you talk. It's like sitting there,
well,
touching
can I just talk about James, please?
No, let's not.
No, he hates this. And I was thinking about this before, because normally when we work together and he asks me about me, I start turning it on him. And he's going, you're deflecting from yourself. Because believe it or not, I don't actually like talking about myself too much. Not personal things, but I'm getting better at it. We met on Clubhouse, and during lockdown, Clubhouse was massive. And he used to host rooms. It was called The Breakfast Club with Ashley Shipman and Paul Abercrombie. He used to host rooms, and sometimes in that room, it was like 1,000 people. Yeah, and the room would go on for days. What was 4 days?
4 days, yeah.
4 days of a room. It's like an open audio room. And the appetite that people had for, what was the room you used to do on a Sunday?
Daily Habits of High Performance.
Daily Habits of...
It's a good name for a podcast.
It is a good name for a podcast. And what James does, he has a podcast agency, and he's also one of the most authentic, kind, brilliant human beings that I know. I just thought I'd tell you that.
No reason.
Not that it means anything.
Brilliant. Hope you didn't miss your train for that interlude you asked for. Final question, right?
Yeah.
So everyone here has been brilliant for the last couple of days. We've been taking on a lot of information. In a world where there is infinite information available, knowledge is no longer power. It's the implementation of knowledge, which is the true power. How can people, what little daily habits, talking about daily habits of high performance, what habits can people put into tomorrow to make sure that what they have taken in today, they can actually apply?
All right, so are you ready for this?
Here we go.
Right, this is the last thing. Who knows who Alex Hormozi is?
Yes.
So Alex Hormozi is one of the most well-known entrepreneurs in the world. I don't know him. I like a lot of what he says. And one of the things he says, which is really cool, is the best person to coach you is the person you're going to become. Right? So when I'm working with, like Ronnie O'Sullivan when he came to my house in 2002, please send this to Simon, by the way, and just say, Simon, I absolutely love you. Simon Squibb, for those of you that don't know, I know you work with Simon. I saw Simon's TED Talk in Brighton. This is someone who clearly knows who he is and has built something pretty much from nothing and now has millions of people all over the world that are thinking about what their dreams are. So when it comes to a dream is something that already exists. So if you come up with an idea, everything that exists twice. Once in your head and then once in reality. Bringing something to reality is a challenge because the fact that there's always going to be resistance, right? There's going to be some resistance to making this thing happen. This is the point I'd like to leave you with. There is a version of you that already exists in the future. You just haven't met this person yet. What if I could introduce you to that person? What if I said, what's your name? Steve. Steve, listen, Steve. There's just over here, Steve, is you in 5 years' time. And it's the Steve that has built what Steve is working on. And Steve, I'm going to introduce you to this version of yourself because that version of you is going to start talking to you and guiding you. Because it's all very well taking advice from other people, and we all need advice from other people. But to be guided by a version of yourself, and this is where it's fascinating. So we've been involved in some studies where we wire people's brains up. We ask them 3 questions. We ask them to think of themselves. And we see a region of the brain light up. We see a region of the brain light up when we ask people to think of themselves. Then we ask them to think of a stranger. We see a different region of the brain light up. Then we ask people to think of themselves 6 months, a year in the future. What part of the brain do you think lights up for most people? It's a stranger. We don't have empathy for things we don't know. And as a coach, I am a coach. I've been coaching people for years. And by the way, the word coach comes from a Hungarian word meaning a coach and horses. Why would anyone go in a coach and horse? Because they are somewhere, they want to go somewhere. Most people know where they don't want to go. Some people know where they want to go, but they don't know who they want to be. And the best example of this in the world is Mr. Beast. If you don't know who Mr. Beast is, he's the most successful YouTuber of all time. In 2017, he made 5 videos. And in those videos, he's talking to his future self. You can watch them, it's fascinating. And then he scheduled the videos to go out 6 months, a year. He just released
The 10-year
he just released the 10-year one. Because he and Stephen Bartlett, I was with Stephen Bartlett at that EMC in Brighton, I introduced him. He said when he was 15, he knew who he was becoming. It's fascinating. Now, I can't make you have empathy for a version of yourself that you don't know yet, but you're going to meet that version someday. And someone once said to me, hell is coming to the end of your life and meeting the person that you could have become. I don't know who said that. Might have been Simon Squibb. But you're going to meet that person. But the fact is, there is an amazing opportunity for us to change. There's an amazing opportunity for us to meet that version of ourselves. I'm so passionate about this. I created a 30-day program, which was free. We must have had about 50,000 people sign up for that. What percentage of people do you think have finished it? There's me saying, I want to change the world. Probably just over 1%. So you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But if you can help people get out of their own way and see a future they want to go and create, but more importantly, the person they can become. Because that version of you doesn't have any power. I'm like a lawyer who's representing this version and saying, let's start helping you build a bridge between who you are now and this version of yourself. So, look, life is very challenging and difficult. My wife and Simon was extremely helpful. My wife passed away 2 years ago. She was given, what this guy did also, when my wife got sick again for the second time, he called me up and said, is there anything I can do for you? How can I help you? When she passed away, he came down. He didn't have to do that. Rob Moore also did the same thing. It's like, what can I do? How can I help you? The reason I tell you this is she was given 18 months to live in 2011. And I filmed a lot of what was going on for many reasons. I found a treatment in America. It saved her life. She made the most miraculous recovery. We got married. We had a wonderful life. She then had a secondary cancer in the brain. This time she was given 6 months to live. 6 months to live. I almost gave up. But a few people around me said, you can't give up. We found a treatment in Germany where they put 2 viruses in her brain, chickenpox and the Newcastle virus. It triggered an immune response, and she seriously came back from the dead. There's a medical paper that's now been written about her. Then she got COVID, and unfortunately that took her out the game quite quickly, and she died in May 2023. Now, the reason I tell you this is I was obviously in a terrible place. Grief is a hard thing to go through. Who here's ever lost anybody? Yeah, and if you haven't, you will. And if you need any help, reach out to someone like me, because there's no point going through something if you then don't go and help someone else who's going through something similar. And most of our ideal clients are actually who we were a few years ago. That's how I look at it. So it was so hard, but I had to do something. I had to do something after she passed away. And after a couple of months, I decided to put all the bits of footage that I had of everything that happened and make a film. I didn't make it for any other reason. I wanted to share with her friends and family. A very good friend of mine, very famous, said to me, you should enter into some film festivals. I entered it into some film festivals, not thinking anything would happen, and it's now won 10 film festivals around the world, including Cannes, most inspirational film documentary in Hollywood, in New York, all over the world. I didn't make it because I wanted a result. I made it because it was something that I had to do, even though it was hard. It was extremely hard, but I was intentional. And the reason I say this to all of you is, what have you got to do? You've just got to do it. That even if you weren't being paid, you've still got to do it. You've still got to do it because it's part of who you are. That's what an entrepreneur is. An entrepreneur isn't someone who's just going to take a risk in the pursuit of profit. It's someone who they've got to do something. That's my perception of what an entrepreneur is. What is it that you've got to do? No one else can do it. You have to do it. So if I can help any of you, or you want to reach out to me in some way, shape or form, feel free to do that. And Simon was also someone who massively helped. He donated, I think he donated a couple of £1,000 to this treatment. I didn't even know him. I met him once, and this was someone, I want to do something, I want to help. How can I help? Which is what Martin Luther King said, didn't he? He did say that, didn't he? He said, the most important question we should be asking each other is, what can I do for you? How can I help you? What do you need? Who was Martin Luther King inspired by? Gandhi. What did Gandhi say? Be the change that you want to see in the world. He had to reinvent himself. I think the greatest thing we will ever do is our own reinvention. But if we do it consciously, we've got a chance. If we don't do it consciously, then we're just like leaving everything to chance. So thank you so much. You were the best host ever.
I said,
wasn't he good? Come on. Come on.
On a serious level though, go and check Pete out, go and follow him online, and to your point and the advice, and even the question, what's your film doing tomorrow? And you're like, be the person, like, give the coaching tomorrow to yourself that the person in 5 years is going to thank you for. So maybe tomorrow, take your notes that you've taken from the last couple of days and sit down and just think, what is the thing that you need to do in 5 years' time? And then take one incremental step. Don't be overwhelmed by the stuff you've learned, just take one step. It gets you a step towards being that person in 5 years' time. This is the final keynote stage panel. Thank you very much. Hope you've enjoyed the Festival of Entrepreneurs. It's the first, I know you have, put your hand down, it's not school. This is the first year this has ever been run. There's so much time, effort, energy, and risk, as you can imagine, putting on an event in this space there. So please go and support this event. Please make sure you sign up for tickets for the next one. Share this on LinkedIn, share it on social media. Let them know you had a fantastic time, and hopefully we can grow it and scale it year after year. But from myself and from the best person that I know, I think I like you more than my wife. I don't know more than my kids, but definitely more than my wife. From me and from Pete, thank you for being here. We'll see you in the next one.
Thank you. Feel free to follow me on Instagram, and if any of you want that 30-day program I put together, it's absolutely free. If any of you complete it, which is online,
only if
you complete it, I will talk to any of you that get to the end. It's not that difficult, by the way. But thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for watching this special episode from the Festival of Entrepreneurs. Our mission is simple: to help founders and business owners grow faster, think bigger, and take action. And if you were part of the event, thank you for joining us and being part of the community. And if you missed it, don't worry. We'll be back with even more ideas, inspiration, and opportunities to help you take your business to the next level. You can find out more and register for future events at festivalofentrepreneurs.co.uk.